His name is Ben Bernanke, and he is the world's most powerful central banker. He is at the head of an institution called the United States Federal Reserve, and it is a bank which lends money to other banks. Okay? So he's the world's, and such banks are called central banks, and even within central banks, he runs the world's most powerful central bank. He can create money out of thin air, and he can actually drop it on people, which is what he's trying to do, through that helicopter. And this is actually something that he had said when he was talking in a different context about Japan some 10 years ago, that today there should not be a debt crisis in any country because any central bank ought to be able to create money, just print money, because that's what central banks do. They can print money. They can print money and give it to anybody who wants to pay back their debt. Okay. So the key question is, how does it help a country to have its own currency in battling a debt crisis? Now, when a government takes debt and takes too much of debt, then its lenders might say, oh, we don't want to lend you any more money because I don't think you will be able to repay. So at that stage, if that country has a central banker like Mr. Ben Bernanke here, then that country, being the United States of America, does not really have to worry, because Mr. Ben Bernanke can always print money and use the money that he himself is printing to buy his government's debt. Okay? So his government will always find a buyer of last resort for its debt, even if other people do not want to buy his debt, buy Mr. Obama's debt, then Mr. Ben Bernanke will. So this is a key flexibility. UK, US and Japan enjoy it, but in Europe, this flexibility does not exist because there is only one single currency, euro, and neither Italy, nor Spain, nor Greece, nor France, nor Germany, no national authority can print money. Money printing is centralized. And that makes this man very, very tense. So who is this man and why is he so tense? The hint is right there in the picture. Okay? One more hint. He is the Prime Minister of a country where it rains mainly in the plains. Any answers? Okay. Nobody? At least the name of the country? Okay. Now, he is Mr. Mariano Rajoy. He is the Prime Minister of Spain, and his country is being gored by debt. It is making headline news for all the wrong reasons almost every day, because his country has taken too much of debt, and no, he does not have someone like Mr. Ben Bernanke to print euros and give it to him and say, okay, now you give me your debt and you take these euros. So that is not happening. Who is she? And why is she not smiling? Okay, she is at the head of the most powerful economy in Europe. Anybody? Any hand? Yes, there. Chancellor of Germany? Yes. What's her name? But prize nevertheless. Her name is Angela Merkel. And because she is the head of the most powerful economy in Europe, she was asked to prescribe some medicine to solve Europe's debt crisis. And what medicine did she prescribe? She said, okay, let there be austerity. Let all the governments spend less, and that way the lender will be convinced that these governments are now going to live within their means and therefore they deserve more debt. Now this is typically what, even let's say if I run up too much on my credit card bill, then my banker will tell me, no, Andy, you need to really cut back on all the things that you're spending your money on, and only then I'm going to keep your credit card limit there. So this is the same medicine. For an individual, the medicine of austerity, of belt tightening works when there is too much of debt. But when it is practiced by a government in a national setting, then sometimes this is the result. This is a scene from Athens where people who are very angry that their pension systems are being dismantled, so their old age is now going to be insecure. They are also protesting against cuts in government jobs, and they are angry mobs have taken to the streets, and they are burning down official buildings, and there is chaos in the society. So the medicine of belt tightening, which works for an individual who takes on too much of debt, often does not work for countries. The jobless rate in Spain right now is 24%. And as I just said, voters in Greece are tired of austerity. And last weekend there was an election in which the voters expressed their anger with all mainstream politicians and said, you guys have let us down. Okay. Now there is a very real possibility here that the Eurozone just might shrink, because Greece might say, no more. No more. We can't take this austerity anymore. So German Chancellor Angela Merkel, please, we refuse to take your medicine anymore and allow us to walk out of Eurozone. So this is a very real threat that the Eurozone economy faces right now. It has 17 members, and if one leaves, then there'll be question mark about how long the arrangement of a single currency shared by 17 nations can survive. Okay. So this man had actually seen it coming. So who is he and why is he relevant today? Now I don't expect you to know him, so I'm going to give you the answer right away. His name is John Maynard Keynes, and he is a British economist. He was a British economist. He died in 1946. And he used to talk about such things, and he was a great student of the Great Depression in the developed world, especially America, in the 1930s. And he wrote a great book in 1936 in which he talked about such things as paradox of thrift and animal spirits. Now, what is paradox of thrift? What I just now talked about. That spend less is good advice when personal debt is too high, but if everyone spends less at the same time in an economy, then the total economic output of the nation itself will be depressed. Because if a consumer does not spend, then the producer cannot sell. If the producer cannot sell, then he will fire workers. If the worker is fired, he will not consume. If a company is not earning profit, and if people are unemployed, the government does not earn any taxes. If the government doesn't earn any taxes, the government can't spend. So it's a vicious cycle. So spend less is good advice for normal times, but not for times like the one that we have in the world today. And this was his insight 75 years ago, an insight that the world has forgotten, and because of which there is so much of angst in the world today. All right. Now, I'm going to conclude my talk here in the next 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to talk about one specific solution to what can be done in Europe. And then I would like to hear your views, your thoughts on it. So, this man, now once again, he might look familiar to those of you who have visited the United States of America or have seen the US currency, because it's his picture that you see on US $10 bills. Okay? Now, his name is Alexander Hamilton, and he was the first Secretary of Treasury for the United States of America. And if you go back and look at $10 bill, you'll actually see his face there. Alexander Hamilton was a man of great foresight. If you recall the moment of birth of America as a nation, state, then it had just thrown off the British colonial yoke, and to do that it had fought a costly war. And how was this war paid? Now, different states which later came together to build America had taken on debt. So Massachusetts had taken debt, North Carolina had taken debt, South Carolina had taken debt, but some of the states had paid off their debt, and some had not. And the states that had not included some 13 states, including Massachusetts and South Carolina, etc. And the total outstanding debt back then was $25 million. And Alexander Hamilton asked the other states like Virginia and North Carolina, which had paid off their debt, that he told them that, look, we have to assume Massachusetts' debt. You have to pay for it. So North Carolina said, wait a minute, why should I? Virginia said, why should we? So he said, just like today, Germans are saying, why should we pay for Greek debt? Why should we pay for Spanish debt? But Alexander Hamilton back then said, no, it must be done. We are a fiscal union now. We are one. And if you want the United States of America to be a creditworthy entity in the world for the next 500 to 1,000 years, then you today have to write a check for this $25 million. Now, that $25 million, the value of that today in euro terms, because we are talking about Europe's debt crisis, right? Any guesses? $25 million US back in 1790. How much do you think it will be worth today in euros? Or even in dollars? Well, as it turns out, it's about 1.2 trillion euros. Okay? So this is the kind of high stakes gamble that Alexander Hamilton had played back in 1790. Now, I had told you that I will not show you any graphs or charts. Well, I actually obviously lied. So here is one and only one of my chart out there today, which, now these are the the top 10 economies in the world, and the graph starts at 1990 and it ends in 2012, or rather second quarter of last year. And the details are not important. What is important is that when you look at debt as a portion of national income or as a ratio of national income, it's a rising trend everywhere. And it has really gone up. Imagine, if debt keeps on increasing as a ratio of income, if it happens to an individual, there will come a time when there'll be too much of debt. So there is too much of debt in the world today, and that is the crux of the problem, because this debt has to be paid out of income. If there is no income, then how is this debt going to be serviced? So why can't we just take the Shakespeare's solution and just say, okay, this debt is not going to be repaid and therefore it must be cancelled? Because today the money lender is not the gentleman on your left, but it is the institutions that you see here on your right, which are banks. Now, banks are very important for the survival of modern society, because they are the ones who actually keep an economy humming. Okay, without them, an economy would collapse. So, I talked in detail about one solution, and that was a fiscal union. Everyone come together. Germany says, okay, we will pay for Greece. Other solution is unlimited money printing. I talked about money printing by the Fed, so that's one way to deal with it. More austerity. I've talked about austerity and Angela Merkel's solution. So do you think more is needed, or do you think the euro should just collapse? And that really is my presentation today. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.